So over the last couple of years, I actually made a lot of changes in my business, obviously, right? Businesses evolve, they change. But there's something that I started using 5 years ago, and I've never stopped using it, because every single time I do it like that, it gets me better conversions, more sales. It's just awesome. So let's dive in.
Looking for clever ways to grow your business? Then you are in the right place. This is where you get a behind the scenes on what's working in marketing today. My name is Wilco Kreij, and here's what I discovered.
So it's Wilco Kreij here with all of you, and just 5 years ago, this is what I looked like.
Hey, it's me, Wilco Kreij here, and I just wanted to record a personal video message for you instead of sending you an email message only.
I know, that's embarrassing, right? I actually didn't plan on making that public, but my team insisted, so I figured, you know what, even though it's like super embarrassing, I hope you can sort of see through it. That's who I was 5 years ago. It was actually my first video that I did online in my grandmother's basement, which is a weird fact that I won't bore you. Anyway, what I also did at that time is I started selling products, right? Coming up with an offer and things like that. And I remember the first time I started doing that, I had no clue what I was doing. So I went to, I think it was like a forum or something like that, where to ask people like how do I start with, like, I heard people talk about a sales page and how to convince people, but I had no clue at all. And so I hired someone to write a sales copy, right? And he sent me a list, or she, I don't even remember. I tried to look him up, but it wasn't available anymore. But he or she sent me a list of questions to answer about that product. And every single time, since that time, when I think of a new product or a new business or I do something new, I answer those exact same questions. Because by answering these questions beforehand and actually writing them up, I realize exactly what the pitfalls are, why people would not be purchasing, what I need to develop. And I highly recommend you to not just do this when you're ready to sell your product or whatever, but if you're even before that, if you're planning to create a new business or launch a new product, or you're at the starting point, the idea that you have in your mind, answer these questions that I'm going to go through in this video, because that will help you understand even better what you need to do or what you need to avoid. And if you already have a product or a service that you're currently selling, even then it's super useful. Answer these questions, literally grab a piece of paper, write them up, and I promise you that you'll get some new insights. So the first thing you need to do is write up what your offer is. So seriously, write up what is your product, what does it actually do, what's the price, what's the guarantee, what's the total package of your product. That's obviously the first thing you need to answer. Now secondly is, why is it unique? Literally describe, why is this so much different than anything else out there? Because if you're just trying to be an improvement offer, if you're just saying, well, I'm faster than this and that, or I'm just better, or I'm just blah, blah, blah. If it ends with ER, then usually it's an improvement offer. And an improvement offer, I'm not saying you can't sell that, you can, but it's going to be 5 times easier if you have something unique, something that doesn't exist before. And it oftentimes is not you can even do that with the same product, right? It's really just how you explain it to the marketplace. So ask yourself, why is this unique? It's not going to be easy, right? It's not something that you just, why is it unique, and you answer it up. It needs something that you need to think about and work on, but you need to get a good answer to that, and you need to be confident that whatever you have is actually unique in the marketplace. And number 3 is obviously important as well, and that is to understand who your target audience is. And because if you don't really understand who your target audience is, then it's going to be really hard to really come up with anything, right? Because if you're trying to sell to everyone, you're basically talking to no one, right? So you want to be very specific in who you're actually targeting. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into that audience. So the first thing you want to answer to them is what are their biggest fears? What keeps them up at night? What do they really do not want to happen? Right, you really need to understand to that level in their business, or whatever, maybe you're a business to consumer kind of business, whatever it is, what's keeping them up, their frustrations. Write up everything and anything that you actually can, obviously if it's somewhat related to what you're doing, but you really want to understand what are the fears that they actually have. And then after, also obviously, what will they gain? If they get access to your product or your service, what will be better for them, what will be solved, what pain will be removed, what will they gain, what is it that they actually get. And obviously you're not selling a drill, you're selling the whole. Like, what will they actually gain by getting access to your product or service? That's something you need to understand as well and write up in this number 5. Now number 6 is proof. Like, what's the proof that whatever you told them, like, that you think they will gain, that you know they will gain if you get access to your product or service, what's the proof? Like, have you experienced it before? Do you even have social proof from other customers or other clients before? Do you have any data or studies that you found that, you know, that make it undeniable that whatever you say is true, that they will gain, is actually the case? Like, what's the actual proof? If you don't have a convincing proof, like at least multiple things actually, then you need to keep on working on that, because you need to have hard evidence that whatever you're claiming is actually true. So what's the proof that whatever you say they will gaining is actually true? Now, if you would tell someone that they will gain all these things, like what will then be their objections, right? What will be all the reasons they could think of, or they probably will think of, that they will actually not, the reasons why they would not actually make a purchase. Like, is it too expensive? Is it taking too much time? Is it too complex? I can do it, it doesn't work for my market. Whatever it is, write up all the objections that you can think of, all of them, big or small, right? Because you want to make sure that you fully understand all the objections, because later on you want to make sure you can actually cover those and make sure these are not objections anymore. Now, next thing obviously is also, and this sort of sounds a bit salesy, but bear with me, please. What is the dream they have, right? Like, what's the ultimate dream they have if they would actually get your product or service? Like, we already talked about like what they actually gain, which can be slightly more specific, but like, what's the ultimate dream they have, which whatever you have will help them get there. Maybe not the full picture, but what's the final dream they have? Maybe it's to really grow their business, or to be free with their family, or to, you know, make their kids happy with the gift they're gonna give if you're selling some kind of gift. Like, what's the real dream they have, right? Getting a smile on the family's faces, or whatever it is. Like, what's the real dream they have? Get that real clear as well. And then finally also, what's the nightmare that they would have? What's the worst thing basically that could happen if they would not purchase your product? Like, if they would just read it and they would just skip it, forget it, they will not actually make you purchase your product or service. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen to them, right? Because once you have all these things clear and you really just have it, and you really understand your audience to that level, you know exactly what your offer is, first of all, and why your offer is unique, who your specific target audience is. You will fully understand what their fears are, like why will they stay up at night, what will they gain if they actually get your product, and why is that the case, like the actual proof of that, right? And you know exactly what all the objections are going to be. You know the final dream they have and what will happen if they don't get access to it. And if you answer all of these questions, and ideally even before you even start with your product or service, right, or at least when you're putting it all together, you will see exactly what you need to do in order to make sure you can create a compelling offer. And like I said, over the last 5 years, I've done this every single time. I've answered these questions before I even released Viral to the market. I answered all these questions before I released any of the Connect.io tools in the market, before I launched Connect Leads, before I launched Connect Audits, before I launched Connect to Target, before I launched Connect Explore. All these questions, I've always answered it, because, you know, when you, for example, answer these kind of objections, then you already know, like, I need to cover this, right? I need to make sure this is covered, and you can do it in multiple ways. For example, you could add it into your product, right? Or if it's not part of your product, you could maybe add in a bonus or something they will get for free to help them overcome that actual objection, or at least mention it in your sales page. Because if people have an objection, the best thing is to just go head on and talk about it instead of just ignoring it, because people have the objection whether you like it or not, right? And just these 9 questions have dramatically helped me get more sales into my business every single time I launch a new product. It's the fundamentals of a good sales copy. And even if you don't want to write your own sales copy, if you answer these questions and you know them perfectly well, and you send that over to a sales copywriter, they're going to do a way better job of writing a good copy for you, right? Because, like, if you just ask them, hey, this is my product, write something that will work. like if you put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out. And if you really think about this and you have this really clear, send that over and they will have something to work with and write an awesome sales copy for you. So I hope this video is helpful and I will see you all in the next video.